What up guys, it is Justice here, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing the superior Elite Void versus tier 90 armor. This question can be answered with one word: Voidscape. You could just argue, which many people do in fact, that Void is just greater than everything else. The issue isn't really that Void is OP, however. The problem is that armor, you could say, is broken. The defense factor is broken. It doesn't really matter the defense you have the majority of the time, because you can usually deal enough DPS to outweigh the damage that you're taking in order to finish the fight. Or, for example, you've got your teammates supporting you and it's purely group-orientated DPS to overcome the battle, and essentially you don't need defense that much in EOC. Now, that comes to the fundamental question of, does Superior Elite Void deal more DPS than tier 90 armor? And the simple answer is yes, however only in specific PVM scenarios, which I'll move on to later, but I do want to focus on the percentages now and the statistics around what is the difference between normal Void and Superior Elite Void. Why is it good to use? Well, it comes down to accuracy and damage. Void's hidden effect, let's delve into this. All Void armor pieces, when you wear the full set, that could be normal Void, Elite Void, or Superior Elite Void, gives 3% accuracy boost. Now, I'm going to move into the accuracy later on, and that is the most important thing, by the way, about this, because Void is the only armor in the game, I'm pretty certain of that, that gives an accuracy boost. Now focusing on damage, Superior Elite Void gives a damage bonus of 7%, and by the way, normal Elite Void gives a damage bonus of 5%. So if you're putting that extra hours in of what, let's say 12 hours without double points, or let's say 5 to 6 hours with double points over this minigame weekend, then you're putting all that effort in for that extra 2% damage bonus. The accuracy in fact stays the same. And by the way, 2% is a pretty big deal when you look at the difference between normal overload and supreme overload, which again I'm sure you guys have watched, and that is on my channel. Now yes, the 5% extra damage received while wearing Void was also removed on the 29th of September, but I'm not really going to focus on that because, like I said earlier, with regards to defense, and it's not really a justifiable reason to consider here, unless of course you are learning PVM, you're maybe not so great at DPSing yet, and maybe possibly you're not going to be able to kill monsters quick enough, let's say for Rise of the Six, and you may prefer tier 90 armor due to that factor. But after you've learned, after you've progressed into PVM and you're learning the rotations, learning the mechanics within that boss fight which you like to go to, that's when you should be getting Void. Because fundamentally, Void will help you deal that extra damage output over time, duration of the battle, which in fact will in turn make it easier once you do learn how to DPS right. Alright, so I was getting a bit sidetracked there, so let's get back to the percentages. And you may be thinking, what, 2% increase? That's absolutely nothing. But just to put it into consideration, that 2% increase has determined that everybody all of a sudden now uses Void again, and there's a reason for that. It's because that accuracy boost highly influences high level PVM boss fights. Tier 90 armor is better at bosses where you have 100% accuracy, such as let's say Slayer, God Wars Dungeon excluding Nex, Mole, giant freaking hard mode Mole, and even KK due to having a higher accuracy here. However, some would argue to use Void here too because of how much your tier 90 armor degrades and how awfully quick it does due to all of those minions attacking you. Now let's have a look at where accuracy does matter. For example, Virago, DPSing role, which in most cases is mage DPSing, but at times in certain rotations you'll want to switch over to melee really quickly, by the way, with Void, very good with switching. Switch over to melee for that melee deeps with Zerk. Other high-level bosses such as Araxor, Void is very good at, and of course Nex, you'd be very surprised, a lot of people are soloing at the moment throughout RuneScape with Superior Elite Void, and of course carrying out the DPS role at Nex, and even a tanking role in a duo or a trio, because nowadays when you're tanking at Nex within a team, you're pretty much DPSing the majority of the way except for the ice phase. And probably one of the most influential bosses as well is Rise of the Six. This is when Superior Elite Void really comes into its own, mostly because the defenses of those brothers seem extremely high, and this is probably the area which you potentially are going to splash the most. So it's really useful having Superior Elite Void here, especially if you want to do a bit of switching for the laugh of it into melee again on that last melee brother at the end. That's always nice and loads of fun to Zerk deeps it out. So essentially, to summarize, the accuracy accuracy outweighs the damage boosts from tier 90 armor. Yes, if you're just solely going on damage, and let's say Void didn't have that accuracy boost, then tier 90 armor would in fact be more useful in terms of DPS output than Void armor. And that's what makes tier 90 armor better at bosses where accuracy doesn't matter, such as Ziliana, Commander Ziliana, Saradomin, Krill, Zamorak, and of course Kriera, which is the Armador boss, and even the Kalphite King. However, because of that 3% accuracy boost which is involved in the Void armor sets, it does in fact make Superior Elite Void better than tier 90 at high level PVM scenarios. And don't quote me on this one, but I'm pretty certain normal Elite Void competes well with tier 90 armor. And that's from my personal experience carrying out the next DPS role over the past couple of weeks. So consider these PVM scenarios where the accuracy is needed when you decide on which armor to wear. Alright, so moving away from DPS now, let's move on to other factors to consider. And remember, that's even if you're using lower tier weapons, by the way. All of this accuracy input from Void is worth it. So even if you're using tier 80 weapons at Virago, Araxor, or let's say even Nex, because I know a lot of people use tier 80 gear at Nex, then Superior Elite Void is still the way to go, by the way. And also it's probably more cost beneficial for you at a lower level where maybe you're not going to have as much money as well. People are able to use Superior Elite Void against Nex solos, Virago base tanking, because why the heck not? And that's kind of proving at the moment how defense really doesn't influence people at the moment on the game. It's more about DPS output. And this does make you think what Jagex are considering at the moment, because obviously with the huge damage reduction change, with the combat improvements which happened a few months ago, maybe half a year ago or something, where armor reduced damage, etc., and then they tried to make shields more important, from spirit shields to tier 90 barrow shields, in terms of the resonance heal increases with the higher the level the shield is. But potentially moving into 2015 and 16, they are looking into how to make defense and armor ratings more prominent within the game. Void is the only armor that boosts accuracy as well as damage. Void does not degrade, tier 90 armor does. You can get 26.6k experience DPS at Virago, let's say on phase 2 with tier 90, but you can also do that even easier now with Superior Elite Void, and it's cheaper to use. Is it worth the time, however, invested in pest control and quests to obtain Superior Elite Void? Well, let's go through how many commendation points it requires from absolute scratch, working all the way from normal Void all the way up to Superior Elite Void. Well, in order to purchase all of the normal Void sets, so top, bottom, gloves, and then all of the helmets, that's 1,250 commendations. Then once you've completed Void Stairs Back quest, you have to upgrade your Void Bottom for 100 commendations to Elite Void, and then as a reward, as a quest reward, you actually get an Elite Void Top for free. And then it costs 1,200 commendations to upgrade all of your Void armor pieces, including the helmets, to Superior Elite Void. So that totals a 2,550 Void Knight commendations, which is roughly around 25 hours of pest control, or around 10 to 12 hours when it's double mini game weekend. That's getting 100 to 120 commendations per hour, and of course double that when it's the mini game weekend. And just a quick side note to mention, if you haven't got Void at all and you're starting from scratch, complete all the quests first, because like I just mentioned, as a quest reward, you do get Superior Elite Void Top for free, so you don't need to go out and get the normal Void Top basically, and also you get 50 commendations as a quest reward as well. So that totals up to, in fact, 2,250 total commendations to get the full Superior Elite Void set. So I highly recommend that, which is around 2.5 to 3 hours of time saved. And so it comes down to your own personal preference and motivation, but I do strongly believe it definitely is worth it if you want the very best PVM gear in game. And in order to achieve, by the way, the entire superior set effect, the player must have upgraded all of the contributing armor pieces. I hope you found this video useful, and I hope it helps you understand accuracy even more now in the game and how important it is within high level PVM scenarios. Thanks for watching. I really hope you found this informative. If you did and you learned something from this, be sure to give the video a like. It really helps out these sort of videos and especially really supports the channel, so it'd be much appreciated. Good luck on your PVM trips, and I'll see you on my next video or live stream.